My team just got a $5 per hour raise across the board and an extra week of PTO per year. This is a $100,000 experiment, and I would like to tell you why. Now, this is part of the newsletter that I send out and write personally every week for the last 140 weeks in a row. And this is going to expand on that and go into a little bit more detail. I usually do a behind the scenes of the channel and the store about 2-3 times a year. And this is one of them because we're hitting a milestone and I think this is interesting. I also want to leave a little bit of glimmer of hope in the world. So in the last 3 months, we have unlocked how to build tools that make us more efficient. AI is actually pretty bad at the plumbing of code, okay? The things that make code work. The GitHubs, the Lambda, the S3 buckets, all that AWS stuff, TestFlight, and the Expo dev that makes like an iPhone app, okay? It's really actually really bad at that. We have to manually do a lot of it. We don't use AI in any of our content, okay? I'm super against the slop, and I'm super against recycling just the same cliche information, even if it is correct. However, people on our team can now quickly solve the pain of crappy workflows or tedious jobs by vibe coding, a quick headless app, or make an iPhone app that makes restocking half as hard. Now, professional devs will look down at amateur vibe coders. However, we build things in very small chunks with very good plans, with very good documentation. And because of that, things that used to break less often, and we can get them fixed in about a half an hour instead of 3 weeks. So we've been doing this for 3 years. And to get things built and fixed has a cadence to it. A natural cadence for somebody who feels the pain and somebody who doesn't understand the problem, understands code, but doesn't understand the problem, is trying to fix that pain. That is very slow. It is now life-changing, not to have AI do our jobs, but we use AI to build predictable tools, scripts, and apps that reduce errors or busy work. Now, before I continue, I think that's an important distinction. There's two reasons I really want to explain this. I constantly scour the internet for other people doing things like me. And I'm constantly looking for somebody who's vibe coding that isn't just like, oh, in a single prompt, I made 19 apps, made my business twice as efficient. And you're like, that's horseshit. It doesn't, it's hundreds of prompts, a lot of yelling at it, and honestly pivoting in your own direction. Oftentimes, it's a lot of problem solving that it's not good at. However, it does fill the gap in that we don't have because we don't know how to write JavaScript. So you typically have two camps where people use AI for everything. We don't even use it. We don't use it to answer emails. We don't use it to make the newsletter. We don't use it to make content. We don't have AI do things in our business. We have it help us make permanent tools, something we would have paid, let's say, a website developer to make for us, but the pain of that literally stopped us from adding to our website for basically the last 2 years in any meaningful way. It was so hard to get somebody to do that and so expensive, which it naturally is, and we have now plugged the gap. So the people who feel the pain of something not working can now fix it. When I'm looking at like min-max scripts and what to order for the week, I can go in and fix the algorithm that calculates it all out myself. I didn't know what GitHub was 2 months ago. And I was terrified when I entered into that space. And most of my team knew what GitHub was. They were ahead of me on that. But so we entered it in very carefully. How will it break? How do we protect it? How do we back this up? And things have broken since we started, and we've been able to fix them. And we're actually growing and growing, which leads back to the beginning of this video. In a world where AI is taking jobs and corporations squeeze their employees, I'd like this to be a glimmer of hope that it's not like that everywhere. We have 9 people, we're keeping all 9 people, and we're now paying 9 people, about 25% more. When we get the store twice as efficient within the next 90 days, I estimate that, we'll finally be able to have more effort spent on research and content than matching restocking to the POs. Things that are just, like you don't calculate things manually because it's just like, it's so easy to use the calculator. If you can just push a button with your thumb and go restocked, and you don't have to spend an hour trying to figure out what line items they were, we can all go make videos and make videos better. just to give you a little insight, we had 2 people in the garage, and we grew quite quickly when we started 3 years ago. And we sold about, we hit a $200,000 a month in gross sales, and we had 2 people in a garage. A garage I already had. And fast forward that about year and a half-ish later, we had 12 people. This is when I was looking for hiring a COO because it's so much to manage, 12 people. 2 buildings. And then we got the expensive version of Shopify. And then our website developer, because now we have a more complicated Shopify, wanted more money. And we needed more apps for more. And it was absolutely runaway bills. And so you can't quadruple your bills and only double. And so we haven't doubled from there. So we had to figure out a way to decouple that. And because we've been able, in the last 3 months, been able to become significantly more efficient, and we have a blueprint on how to become more and more efficient, and it's working so well, that I was able to actually give this raise, even before we're done, because we already do the or it's free guarantee for our customers. Something I've never seen another store do. We ship your order the day you order it, or the order's free. Nobody else does that. The cutoff's 1 p.m. There's fine print. Go read it. We have a 0.03% screw-up rate. I'm going to get that down to a 0.01% screw-up rate, because what causes 0.2 of that percent is inventory errors that we solve by putting QR codes in all the boxes. Because we're able to have an app that goes boop and checks for it. Poof, we just solved 3 times less errors of something that we have about 8 errors a month. And we have done 60,000 orders. And the mailman screws up about 3 times more orders by just losing shit than we screw up. And we always back up. If the mailman screws it up, we still back it up, which also other stores don't do. If the mailman loses it, it's on you. We don't leave our customers hanging. Anyways, if we do that, why not pay more than REI, Amazon, or Costco, even Costco, for equivalent work and see how that goes? If you want to see whose jobs I think should actually be eliminated or how the math works in this $100,000 raise, see this video I'm making right now. So that's a newsletter. So let's go into whose jobs I think should be replaced. The money that we're saving by doing all this stuff is actually, the raise is twice as much money as the money we're actually saving. And the reason I could do that is because the efficiency gap between I feel pain and I fix the pain is literally minutes instead of weeks. That, not the cost of the app we don't have to pay for anymore, is the reason. Now, the runaway bills, we're able to do things with Shopify and code it in a way that allows us to have the Shopify that's like $400, $500 a month instead of literally $2,500 a month. Sending out just 4 newsletters, but you can't guess how much that costs every month, about $1,000. And we only have 50,000 emails, only, like it grows, right? You got to find ways to get rid of these runaway bills as your business grows. You pay more, and you're not always making more money. I'm trying to communicate directly to my audience, because the YouTube algorithm is so everywhere that if somebody is interested in our stuff, I want them to be able to see what we've made for the week. And then I try to write a custom thing at the top, and we don't spam. Even on Black Friday, I don't send something out on Friday. I always send them out on Saturday. So we never spam. So if you fix the runaway bills, in this case, you can put it back in your team, because there's one position that we really don't have, and we're not likely going to have. I believe the number one job that could be automated and could be eliminated and no one would miss in the world is the C-suite. You just don't need a really fancy person in a fancy suit running as much as they do. A lot of things could be automated. Now, my team needs me still. I've not built the store to run without me fully. I am about 1 day a week if I behaved and was good and stayed out of the store and go work on content. We've achieved about that level. And then I can just check and quickly know like it's going well. I might keep tinkering because, the making the systems is so cool. But I think most of my job as the owner, the boss, is getting more and more and more efficient. And so why would I have a COO or a CFO for a store that's doing, let's say, 6 to 12 million a year? You don't need it. That's a lot of money that could, in theory, go back to the team. So what I do think, some leaders are valuable for the whole team. If they can get the whole team to be twice as focused, you don't have to like be a slave driver into just getting people to work twice as hard. You just get them focused. That works really good in our business. If everyone's focused on the right things, then that's absolutely worth money. However, it doesn't need to be a full-time job. We can build an app for that. And I can just check on it efficiently. So if you have a leader running, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40 people in a very, 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 very efficient way, then you don't need CEO, COO, CFO, CMO, because they all cost a lot of money, and rarely are they doing much more than taking up oxygen in a meeting. And so a lot of the money floats to the top, a lot of people get laid off, and these people who aren't actually doing the work actually make decisions that end up being harmful for the business anyways. It is funny that those people get paid regardless of whether or not they were right. Being a business owner, you only get paid if you are right. It's like free soloing. And for context, I have an addiction to reinvestment. I still live off credit card points, a little bit of Rocky Talkie kickbacks, 10% off if you get rockytalkie.com/I-not-to. And I get a little bit of Patreon money. Still have some Patreon supporting, and that helps. A little bit of YouTube ad revenue. Ad revenue is actually like shit. I can live on that. And so I don't take money out of the business. I did have to take it out once to pay taxes because it's a pass-through corporation. But anyways, I don't take money out to live on. And so that's really helped the flywheel get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we haven't even achieved the nirvana of efficiency, and I haven't been able to take my initial investment out. I would love to do that in the next year or two, just so I can play with house money. But that is why we continue to grow, and that is why we can invest in the team. When you're not top heavy, you can stick it back down at the bottom, and then it can keep growing. And I think this how not to thing will be able to do better science more often, more better, because in a world with AI and shitification of corporations and slop and idiocracy taking over the world, I want the science to be better and better and better. We're not looking to make videos about something that already exists on the internet. We want to continue to add to the knowledge. And I know a lot of people are really wadded up when AI trains on their data, especially YouTubers that don't like that. Please train on my data. You're going to do it anyways. But if we can have more accurate, more helpful information going into the robots that are taking over the world, then when you ask it a question, hopefully the answers are more correct over time. The way the math works out, since I promised I'd explain the math, is a $5 raise. So base was 25, and then it was like a 3% raise every year. And so now it's 30 base with for full-time employees with $1 for every 2,000 hours. 2,000 is just a nice, easy round number. It's basically a year. And so you have up to $5 more than when you started. So, and then managers get 10 more than that. And if you're building systems, you're vibe coding, you actually get 10 more than that. Doesn't matter where you are on the scales, you get 10 more than that if you're doing that. And so there's always different ways to make money depending on what value you can add to the business. And it can be fractional. It's not just like you're in this position or you're not. So that is helpful. And then the assistant manager can tinker with being manager until that role can fill in and stuff. So that is how that works. PTO is interesting because if you do it based on 2,000, this is in the weeds, but these things matter. If I divide 160 hours, 4 weeks, divided by 2,080 hours full time, 52 weeks, you could never get that if you actually only work 11 months. So we did a 12-to-1 ratio. So you get 1 hour of PTO for every 12 hours you work in order so you can have the work an actual 11 months and take a full month off. Ideally, not all at the same time. But if you did, plan that, please. So that gives people breathing room, work-life balance. Oh, and we also only work, they work 4 days a week. And someday I'll get there. They work 4 days a week, which gives them 3-day weekends. Plus you smack that PTO around, and there's basically some work-life balance there. So that's a pretty sweet gig. There's medical and stuff, but that we already had that. And that adds up across 9 people. It adds up pretty fast. It's about $104,000 because PTO adds up to about $1,600 per person for that extra week, and then $5 times 9 people and stuff. But the key thing that I communicated with my team is that we don't have just this bump of sales. All right, more money, everybody. It's not that. It's actually the opposite. Is where the costs went down, which is a sustainable, permanent solution to a problem. So if we're constantly not having to pay these expensive bills, which only adds up to about 50, 60, 70,000 that we're saving, and we're not done saving that, or we're spending a lot of money to save that, but it's a one-time fee. It doesn't pay for this $104,000 kickback, right? This bump. But like I said, it's not the cost of the app that we're trying to save. It's the fact that the Scan Picker app, it's like twice as good. And now that we have little special guns for the phones, because we do it with phones, we're saving like 6 seconds per scan. And then we're scanning the boxes when we put it back. So it's not there when we show up to pull it. Like all those things stack up and add up to be more and more and more efficient. And there's almost no downtime in between us wanting a button that'll do something and having the button. So instead of 7 people running the store, because Bobby's Media, Chase's engineer is not, they'll help pick and pack sometimes, but it's like 7 people actually run the store. That'll be basically down to 3.5 full-time employees. Because they work 4 days a week. We're open 6 days, whatever. 3 or 4 people can operate. That's half the team we won't need anymore. And that's where companies oftentimes let people go. I need people over in content. I don't want them being stuck over in the store. But by becoming permanently that efficient, even though the payroll technically doesn't change, they're adding value over here, that I can then pay them more. Whereas if you have a giant sales and then sales go away and it's dependent on that, it's like fluctuates too much. And like in January, I paid out of my pocket to exist. And I'm working like 80-hour weeks. It kind of sucks. And then February broke even, March made up for January, and April was good. No one wants their pay based on that. And our original bonus program was based on profit when we had it. And it was all over the place and it didn't work very well. By now, I already have my comments exploding with AI haters. And I waited too long in this video to get to this point. If you're worried about the environment, me posting this video does 2x to 10x more environmental footprint than the $200 to $250 worth of Claude that we use in a month. Remember, we're not using AI to do the work. It's not just churning through all our shit. It is writing some JSON code for us. We try it, we explore it, we tinker, we fix the plumbing or whatever, and then have it run a few iterations. We don't have to run it through that many times. So the amount of tokens that we use, about $250 for the stuff, means that one YouTube video, a single YouTube video, does more environmental impact than the month of vibe coding. Our air conditioner in one of our 2 buildings does 10x more environmental impact than all the vibe coding we do combined as a team. And you would never expect our team to just sweatshop, pack your order. Air conditioning is humane, according to society today. I know I want it. So if you don't judge the air conditioning, try not to slay me in the comments for the AI being the portion of the AI that we're using. I also don't like to greenwash in our business. And so we don't talk about, oh, look how environmental impact. No, we're shipping plastic every day. We've done 60,000 orders. I'm sure the environmental impact of shipping this item directly to 60,000 people's doors there's some sort of impact there. I don't like it. So we are exploring different packaging for the stuff that we have control over to be cardboard based only and where that cardboard comes from. But what's interesting is the amount of inefficient packaging that comes to us out of 60,000 orders. We have used, I think, less than a dozen rolls of butcher paper that we crumple up because we Tetris each box in order to reduce the amount of shipping impact that has and the amount of waste that goes into basically just the stuff you throw away when you get your product. And my team works 4 days a week, which is mostly for their own mental health and them having a life. But that also reduces cars on the road 1 day a week times 9 people. If our team was twice as big in order to hit $1 million a month, then that's a lot more cars on the road and impact. Now, those people still exist and the air conditioning still runs and AI is still training. I know it's a complicated problem, but I really wish that we can spend time focusing on what the actual problems are and how to actually fix them. Because if we're, let's say, worried about the wrong climbing safety stuff, you're not worried about the right climbing safety stuff, and that's what will put you at risk. So we have a video coming out soon that things that were taught in class, literally wouldn't work if that hypothetical situation happened and would kill you. If you think that's going to work and it doesn't work, then it won't be so, the ball won't be so blue for very long if you think you're making it better and you're not. So I'm not saying that we're environmentally friendly. We ship climbing gear for a living. But don't slay me for prompting Claude a few times a month. And just like you wouldn't expect somebody to work in a hot building without air conditioning, I don't think anybody expects me, more than me, to work 80 hours a week for the rest of my life. I do want this to be manageable. And if I'm paying C-suite in order to manage 10, 12, 15, 18 people, to do something we could literally get down to 2, 3, or 4 people because the app actually just works, then I could have a life. I would love to have a life. I would love for us to be able to put out 3 times more content, every episode 3 times more useful, but I don't want it to come to the cost of my sanity. And I am in September hitting 10 years on this channel. And as you watch most YouTubers, they'll check out. I don't want to Veritasium you guys. I want to not just poof, disappear and be like, here's the new host, right? I want to still be very engaged with the channel. I don't think it's mentally healthy to be on YouTube more than 10 years, and I don't need to be. I can be a part of a bigger team that's doing science before I burn out. So it's important to me that my team doesn't burn out. Only one of us is allowed to be burnt out. And so the fact that I see so much glimmer of hope by making all our own systems built in the smallest chunks possible, so if something breaks, it's actually very easy to fix, then I can fix any of this stuff in no time at all, and I'm not even good at it yet. So the next few weeks, I get to focus on building the infrastructure on how, because I've always edited myself, how to get 3, 4, 5 different editors to cohesively work together, and how to figure out what a line producer would look like on our show to manage, to wrangle 10 different, 12 different cats who are all making their own partial episodes, and how to put it all together and add complexity to this thing. I want to build that infrastructure over the next couple months, and then maybe we might even hire more people because we're able to be more efficient. It's counterintuitive, and I know people are a lot scared, and I know a lot of companies lay people off, and I know the world's kind of, news does really well when it's negative. I know that's what we hear a lot of the times, but I want it out on the internet that not every company sucks, and that AI did something good for a few people in the world. So I hope that's a little optimism for you, and that we at How Not to Care, and we can do more for you guys as customers because we'll be better at our jobs. Thank you for watching this update. And as usual, we have something exciting coming out in a few weeks. And September will be our 10-year anniversary video. This is the next time you're going to hear from me regarding the behind the scenes of the channel. Sign up for our newsletter because you only hear about 1 out of 40 of these actually ever make it out in the wild. So hownottoo.com/sign up. Thanks for watching.